Good evening. If everyone could please join us at their seats, we're going to get started shortly. Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. This is the Mark Clark Extension public hearing. This is the formal portion of that public hearing. I'd like to welcome you all to it. My name is Pete Poore. I'm with the South Carolina Department of Transportation, and we're here to talk about the Extension Supplement Environmental Impact Statement, which is known as the SEIS. I'm here to start this formal presentation right now. The comment period for the SEIS began on August 18th and will continue through October 15th. That's August 18th to October 15th. During that time, all written comments received during the formal comment period will receive a written response. That's very important. The verbal comment period is being recorded by a court reporter for inclusion in the public record, along with any other written or recorded comments as such, and is part of the public record and is subject to the Freedom of Information Act. And now I would like to recognize two important people on this project or in this process. That's Richard Turner, who is the Charleston County Project Manager, and Jay Maddox, the SCDOT Project Manager.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I want to thank you guys for coming. This is the third and final of our public involvement meetings that we've had for the project. We've engaged with quite a few stakeholders on the project, and it's been very beneficial for us as we try to move this project forward. I'm with the South Carolina Department of Transportation, the project manager. We're managing the project on behalf of Charleston County, and Richard Turner is the project manager for Charleston County, so I'll give him a moment to speak.
Thank you, Jay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being out here tonight. And I'm going to be very brief because I would like to recognize our elected official in the room, Mr. Council Member Brantley Moody. And I invite you up. You have a few things to say, and we'll kick it off from there.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all for being here this evening. Welcome to West Ashley Council District 7. Thank you for letting me speak too. We have a county council meeting, as you know, in I think about 20 minutes, so I've got to scoot. But I did want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Your participation is vital. I understand from Richard we've had good online participation as well, so that's encouraging. There should not be a reason why anybody does not know what's going on or has not had a chance to make a comment. I personally am very excited about this project. I like to tell a story real quickly. I grew up riding my bicycle on the dirt road that is now 526 between Ash River Road and Ash River. That was in the late 70s. And it's a real crime that this road has not been completed yet. So you've seen the data, you look around, this project has always enjoyed probably north of 70% support. The time saves, the hour saves. It's transformational for West Ashley and James and Johns Island. So that's my position. That's my public comment. You'll get to make yours. But thank you all for being here. Thank you to Essex Village Church as well. And I look forward to hearing what comes out of this meeting. Thank you, sir.
One point I failed to mention, this formal program is being streamed live on YouTube, and the address for that YouTube stream is scdotmarkclark.com, scdotmarkclark.com. And we welcome the viewers who are watching the stream tonight. Now we're going to go over the rules for the verbal comment period. Verbal comment session is an opportunity for the public to express comments and concerns over the project in a public setting. It is not a question and answer session. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to provide his or her comments, and then we will move on to the next person until everyone who has signed up in advance to speak has been given the opportunity and we conclude the formal portion. And here are the rules. Please conclude your comment when your 2 minutes are up. A heads up will be given to you when you have 30 seconds remaining. Time is not transferable to someone else. So if you signed up, you need to speak or hold your peace. No profanity or personal attacks. Only those who previously signed up will be allowed to speak. You will need to state your name, address, and any group affiliation you may have. All right, now we're going to start with the list of speakers. First person to come up to this podium. I'm sorry? Oh, that's right. I thought Jay was going to do that. Before we go to the speakers, we do have a video that we'd like to show you. And I don't know how to start it. Where is it? I'm sorry? Are you going to introduce Jay Regina? I already did. He's been introduced.
Welcome to the Mark Clark Extension public hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to ask for your input on the recommended preferred alternative and the supplemental environmental impact statement, or SEIS. The purpose of the SEIS is to verify the findings of the draft environmental impact statement that was signed in 2010 using current data. The purpose of the Mark Clark Extension project is to increase the capacity of the Charleston Regional Transportation System, improve safety, and enhance mobility to and from West Ashley, Johns Island, and James Island. The original plan for the Mark Clark Expressway, now known as the Mark Clark Extension, dates back to the 70s and included a phased approach to building the road. This project is the last segment and the final phase that would connect I-526 at Savannah Highway in West Ashley to Johns Island and James Island. Since the signing of the 2010 Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS, a number of changes in our community have occurred within the study area. The population has grown, new developments have occurred, and with that, traffic has changed. Therefore, the South Carolina Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration determined that a SEIS was needed to identify any new information or changes in potential environmental impacts that might affect the conclusions of the 2010 DEIS and the recommended preferred alternative. So what does that mean? The 39 alternatives evaluated in the 2010 DEIS have been reanalyzed in this SEIS. New traffic analysis and field studies were completed to evaluate the potential impacts, eliminate alternatives from the evaluation process, and ultimately identify a recommended preferred alternative. Today, we will talk through the findings of the SEIS, the steps we've taken to reanalyze the potential effects of the project, and present you with the recommended preferred alternative. We value your input and encourage you to share your thoughts and concerns by submitting a comment.
If you've lived in the Charleston region during the last 10 years, we don't have to tell you there have been changes in the area. Some of those changes include a growing population, increasing traffic, and changes to land use. We've seen the new residential and commercial developments pop up in the Charleston region. Because of these changes, the project team has reanalyzed all 39 alternatives from the 2010 Draft Environmental Impact Statement with the most current data available reflecting these conditions. Spoiler alert, for those of you who can't wait, Alternative G, which was the recommended preferred alternative in the 2010 DEIS, remains the recommended preferred alternative today. The 39 alternatives were developed using alternatives from previous environmental studies and input from the project team, resource agencies, local stakeholders, interest groups, and you, the public. While no new alternatives were evaluated, these alternatives were reviewed for this study and modified to account for changes suggested during the 2009 public involvement efforts. The 39 preliminary alternatives evaluated include freeway, parkway, grid network, improvements to existing roads, a tunnel, mass transit, transportation system management, and the no-build alternative. These alternatives were evaluated through the SEIS Tier 1 Preliminary Alternatives Analysis that used traffic performance to determine whether alternatives would meet the project purpose and need. Two other criteria were used in the screening process: potential impacts to wetlands and relocations. These two criteria were included because they are important factors in the project decision-making process, and we heard they were important to you. Throughout this 5-step elimination process, each alternative was compared to the no-build alternative to evaluate how well the alternative performed. Based on this analysis, 3 build alternatives were carried forward. Mass transit and transportation systems management solutions were also considered as non-build alternatives, but did not meet the purpose and need of the project. Therefore, they were not considered reasonable alternatives. After the SEIS Tier 1 Preliminary Alternatives Analysis screening, 3 build alternatives, C, E, and G, were identified for further evaluation and were developed to include design criteria, construction limits, and right-of-way footprints. The SEIS Tier 2 build alternative analysis was conducted to determine the impacts of each alternative based on their footprint. The technical studies associated with the construction of these 3 alternatives determined that the impact associated with the construction of Alternative C was not acceptable to FHWA, SCDOT, nor Charleston County. Therefore, it was eliminated from further consideration, and alternatives E and G would move forward. Let's talk about them. Both reasonable alternatives would have different benefits and impacts as a result of the construction of the proposed project. These impacts were compared to determine the recommended preferred alternative. A detailed analysis comparing the benefits and environmental impacts associated with both of the 2 reasonable alternatives is documented in Chapter 5 of the SEIS. This analysis considered impacts to cultural resources, communities, threatened and endangered species, noise, air quality, wetlands, water quality, floodplains, land use, environmental justice, and parks and recreational facilities. It was determined that Alternative G best met the purpose and need while balancing the impacts to the natural and human environments, and as a result, is the recommended preferred alternative. Let's dive into this a little more. Why is Alternative G the recommended preferred alternative? Alternative G provides the highest potential to improve the travel efficiency for roadway users. This means people will have shorter travel distances, experience less delay, and have faster travel times. This is because it provides drivers multiple access points to the parkway, making the overall localized transportation system more viable and attractive to users. Alternative G would improve the performance of Maybank Highway on Johns Island because there are 2 access roads, rather than a direct connection with Maybank Highway, which would only add to current congested conditions. Alternative G is 9.5 miles long, includes 2 crossings of the Stono River, and 2 connector roads on Johns Island. It is the only reasonable alternative that reflects the strong public support for a parkway, connecting the islands with a protected bicycle and pedestrian path. This multi-use path would provide enhancements and additional access to the James Island County Park and West Ashley Greenway. Additionally, Alternative G is the least expensive of the two. Alternative G would have fewer relocations, 20 total, 12 single-family homes, 1 mobile home, and 7 businesses. Comparatively, Alternative E has 84 relocations, including the relocation of a church. Alternative G would have fewer noise impacts. Neither of the reasonable alternatives would impact threatened or endangered species. Alternative G provides more locations to access the parkway, and there are fewer wetland impacts for Alternative G as compared to Alternative E. Alternative G is the recommended preferred alternative because it provides the best balance of impacts to both the human and natural environments while meeting the project purpose and need. When considering mobility, connectivity, cost, and construction impacts, FHWA, SCDOT, and Charleston County determined that Alternative G was the recommended preferred alternative. To learn more about Alternative G, we encourage you to watch our fly-through video and explore the detailed maps provided at the recommended preferred alternative station on the public hearing webpage. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and encourage you to share your thoughts and concerns by submitting a comment.
All right, now we will begin hearing from our members of the public at that podium. And remember to state your name, your address, and if you are affiliated with a group, please state that affiliation. Our first speaker is Jason Crowley.
Good evening, my name is Jason Crowley, Senior Program Director with the Coastal Conservation League, 131 Spring Street, Charleston, South Carolina. The Conservation League remains vehemently opposed to the Mark Clark extension and believes the only appropriate alternative is the no-build alternative. After a decade of debating and studying this project, the latest supplemental EIS shows that Alternative G will have little to no regional benefit on our transportation system and appears to be a billion-dollar bike path to nowhere. This environmentally destructive proposal will impact more than 30 acres of wetlands, more than 30 acres of James Island County Park, and destroy 13 homes and 7 commercial buildings. This project will have a major negative impact on the quality of life for residents of the Crosscut community, an historic African American settlement community on James Island, and it'll exacerbate development on Johns Island, where we've already been experiencing the negative effects of inappropriate development, resulting in increased flooding issues. This development pressure brought by this project additional pressure brought by this project will place an undue burden on the Gullah Geechee communities on Johns Island located outside the urban growth boundary. This project is a glaring distraction from our region's ability to invest in more equitable, cost-effective, and environmentally sensitive projects, and meaningful transportation progress in our region will continue to be held hostage by 526 unless we settle on the no-build alternative and move on. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Adam Copenhaver.
Hi, everyone. Adam Copenhaver, 3045 Creek Cottage Lane, Johns Island. Only affiliation is a small community on Creek Cottage Lane of 3 neighbors. I do believe that there are positive financial impacts for Route 526, while there are a number of us that are going to be negatively impacted by the project. So I'd like to ask that SCDOT as well as the county come visit us, see our project, or see our houses, see the new location for our road that just came up, which is a connector between Connector A and Rushland Landing Road. We'd like to meet with folks, see how this is impacting us. Further grand oak trees are going to be tearing down, our children, our pets that play in the front yard. This new connection will be just hundreds of feet away from the front doors of our houses. So we'd enjoy the opportunity to visit with SCDOT and review alternatives with us, such as a 4-way intersection at Rushland Landing Road and River Road and Murraywood. This could be accomplished by a roundabout. Roundabout being traffic calming in this area, which will further promote safety for this. If in fact this road or that opportunity is not the safest, although we do believe that it is more economical for the project as well, then we would still like to consider alternatives for adjusting the roadway, adjusting alignment, and making sure that our families have a safe opportunity to live in peace where we are. So thank you very much.
The next speaker is listed as George and Carol Temple.
Good evening, everyone. Carol and George Temple, 758 Sprague Street on James Island. For years now, we have been monitoring the implementation of 526, especially as it impacts James Island and Johns Island. We've listened and evaluated many suggestions and plans. We strongly oppose the building of this infrastructure because of its harm to the environment and its ineffectiveness to actually address the traffic problems that occur on these two islands. We believe that there are less intrusive measures that have been identified and would be effective. Think, for example, turn-off lanes into subdivisions, interconnections between subdivisions and shopping centers. Dumping traffic from James Island onto Calhoun will be a disaster, let alone the infrastructure that would need to be in place for Folly Road. Having been residents of the city now for some 40 years on James Island and watching the traffic that comes on and off the connector, we know that the majority of traffic that leaves the connector at Folly turns left, and this infrastructure is not going to alleviate that problem. What do you think about building a flyover on 17 or extending 526 from Citadel Mall to Johns Island as best solutions for the people to have access to and from Johns Island? Yes, it's an expensive project. The cost, however, isn't my main concern if it would solve a problem, which it doesn't. It's an ill-conceived project that has tremendous environmental impact on the marshes that are significant barriers to coastal flooding, and it's a plan that won't really solve traffic congestion. It promotes automobile-dependent transportation, and we have to have more environmentally friendly transportation solutions. We do like progress, however, let's be smart about what we do now and so that we don't have to have negative impacts in the future. Thank you.
Patrick Welsh. Name listed is Patrick Welsh. Arlington Drive. Okay, we'll move on. Susan Thompson. Okay. Rick Voigt.
Hi, my name is Rick Voigt. I live at 161 River Breeze Drive in West Ashley. This design was created 10 years ago. What's changed? Cost, traffic patterns, etc. Telecommuting, as well as reduced days in office, are forecasted to grow. Both of these modern realities impact this needless spending. How have these current and future trends been considered as alternative? The most urgent issue facing our region is flooding, with large proposed Army Corps of Engineers activities that have a much larger impact to our economy and our region, currently projected at $1.4 to $2.4 billion. Like any budget, choices need to be made. Why are we discussing a decades-old idea when more important things are at play?
John Peters.
Hi, John Peters. I live on Johns Island. Have lived out there for about 25 years. I guess all I have to say is ditto to everything that's been said regarding not building this. I think a no-build alternative should have been explored in addition to these other alternatives. That is smart, sustainable development as opposed to just big, wide roads that induce traffic. Does everybody know what induced traffic is? Where people get in their cars and they drive to the big box malls that are essentially everywhere America instead of staying local and buying local. I walk into these big stores now and I see 50 and 60-year-old men and women behind the counters as cashiers, bagging, doing the things that college and high school students used to do 20 years ago. And why? Because we built an infrastructure that encourages people to go to big giant stores and shop because they think they're saving a little bit of money, when in fact, they're probably spending that money on gas and wear and tear in their car. Let's start building smart. Let's start building roads that encourage people to walk, to take buses, to go to local businesses and spend their money so that these people who are 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds experience the joy of having your own business or being a manager at a store instead of, pushing carts from the parking lot in big box stores. So that's all I have to say.
Alan Duggar.
Hi, my name is Alan Duggar and I live at 11 Bull Street. Today is my 21st birthday, but instead of going out and partying, I'm here. I'm here to oppose this project. When are we going to learn that urban and suburban freeways do nothing but clog up our streets? They harm our local businesses, and they're bad for your mental health. Who wants to sit through traffic all day when you could just walk to the corner store, walk to the restaurant? Who wants to sit in traffic all day when you could be productive, working on the bus or on the train? The fact that mass transit has been given so little consideration in this entire process is appalling. And this is an obscene waste of your money. They didn't say that they would build this project when we passed the county sales tax. But yet, the first opportunity they get to build an auto-oriented sprawl freeway with your money that was promised to help traffic, they jump on it. Please stop this project. Please. Thank you.
Glenda Miller.
Good evening, everybody. It is not my 21st birthday. However, I have for you this evening the top 10 reasons to nix 526. Number 10, we do not need a $1 billion parking lot like they have with 526 at Mount Pleasant and on the Don Holt Bridge and the Westmoreland Bridge. Number 9, 526 is not crucial to any commercial activity, nor is it related to port commerce. Number 8, people will either lose their property or see its values decrease significantly. Number 7, the feds have indicated this is not a project it will fund, so some members of County Council decided to fund the project with a half-cent sales tax bait and switch scheme. By the way, all taxes whether they're federal, county, state, come right out of your paychecks. There's no such thing as federal tax dollars. They're your tax dollars. Number 6, NOAA has stated it will not facilitate or be used as an evacuation route. Number 5, it will take at least 30 acres away from the James Island County Park. Number 4, it will claim at least 30 acres of wetlands, which will exacerbate flooding. Number 3, wildlife and marine habitats will be destroyed. Number 2, it will end at Calhoun Street in front of the new Children's Hospital, an area that's already plagued by confusion and congestion. And number 1, we can't afford it. It's going to cost $1 billion to build 8 miles of parkway. Thank you.
Rich Thomas.
I'm Rich Thomas, 4360 Betsy Harrison Parkway on Johns Island. I want to speak to 3 points this evening. I'm not in favor of this project. This hearing and any other engagement or comments are basically a total farce without the most important factor on which to base any informed opinion, that is, the cost. The last cost estimates were done several years ago, 7 I think, and having a new cost estimate that incorporates the value determinations is a key factor in deciding how to go forward, or even if not, how to go forward with this project. Despite this expensive rah-rah campaign that SCDOT has put on, and I guess the county and our tax dollars supporting, the information presented lacks context. For example, the regional traffic analysis that was over here appears to completely ignore the actual region, i.e. the BCD, Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester region, that is experiencing incredible growth. And it's all outside the existing 526, not in the study area that was presented here. And there was no reference made to this other growth and the needs there. This is a misleading and incomplete analysis. The road concept is just the latest iteration of 1950s transportation thinking that we now know destroyed cities, destroyed regions, and leads to massive induced demand. There's nothing presented here about serious look at alternatives, and one of the earlier speakers mentioned things that could mitigate the need for the road. Solutions such as improved broadband access. For the kind of money we're talking about here, we could run gigabit fiber to every home in the county. We could have mass transit, staggered work schedules, and many other considerations that could support a no-build decision. Thank you.
David Wood.
Good evening. David Wood, 1828 Cornish Avenue. My family and I are frequent users of James Island County Park. My wife and I jog, bicycle frequently. My 4-year-old son learned to ride his bike in the labyrinth of trails in the park. Went camping for the first time in the primitive campground and uses the playground year-round. James Island Park's an oasis of tranquility, nature, recreational value right here in the midst of an expanding Charleston urban suburban area. It's routinely ranked as one of the best parks in the region. It's a jewel of an amenity for Charleston metro area citizens as well as those from afar. It caters to a wide variety of users, many amenities that serve the healthy development of children. Your preferred alternative will kill this park with noise and air pollution. You dismissed other alternatives that would have run well north of the park for various reasons, including the impact it would have on property owners in that corridor. However, those property owners would presumably be fairly compensated. The number of affected individuals probably less than 100. What about the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of satisfied park users every year whose quality of life will be diminished and with no compensation? You state that you will meet Federal Highway Administration guidelines for noise. However, those guidelines do not reflect the difference between the current serenity of the park and what you will bring with a constant stream of vehicles rushing through. Your cavalier attitude that just because the park is public land, you can run roughshod through it is reprehensible. You'll destroy an extremely valued amenity for current and future generations. A rapidly urbanizing area should preserve its natural and recreational settings, not destroy them. I urge you to reconsider this alternative or do away with this extension altogether. Thank you.
Natalie Olson.
Hi, my name is Natalie Olson. I live at 3953 Humbert Road. I'm a Johns Island resident, and I'm very much opposed to the 526 extension. I'm opposed to the project for a lot of reasons, but I'll focus on two today. First, the alternatives analysis is wholly inadequate. It fails to consider every meaningful alternative and possibility that we have to meet the project goals that are in line with what we want on Johns Island. Second, the impacts. I mean, there's clear concern with the direct environmental impacts to the historical communities, to species, to marsh, all the James Island County Park. But there's also all of the direct and cumulative impacts. I mean, we've seen what's happened in Mount Pleasant and the other parts of 526. They're still dealing with traffic. They're still building more roads. It's inducing more development. That's absolutely not what we want or need or can support on Johns Island. So I urge the DOT to not move forward with this project. We've had a lot of bad ideas 50 years ago, and this is one of them, and we need to stop being distracted with this 526 extension and instead focus on the actual projects that are going to alleviate the actual problems that we have. Thank you.
Hamilton Davis.
Good evening, everyone. Hamilton Davis, 3953 Humbert Road, Johns Island. Also work downtown, so I make the commute into Charleston. While I'm certainly concerned about traffic issues on the island and in the region generally, I'm also concerned about the land use decisions we make to guide future growth and the type of infrastructure investments we make to accommodate that growth. Our priority should be elevating the quality of life for residents through comprehensive planning decisions, not narrowly focusing on mega infrastructure projects that are incongruent with the places they are meant to serve. The alternatives considered for 526 are not really alternatives at all. They represent an antiquated and undesirable approach to addressing traffic issues that come with significant negative impacts on the environment, on the community, and the future of Johns Island. There are less expensive near-term options for addressing traffic that don't compromise the quality of life that residents seek to preserve, things like the flyover at 17 and Main and the Maybank Pitchfork. The do nothing option for 526 is the only option on the table right now that doesn't threaten the future of Johns Island and this region. Until a real alternatives analysis is conducted, doing nothing is the best way to avoid destroying the place we're all working to improve. Thank you.
Elliot Barrow.
Elliot Barrow, Johns Island, born and raised Mount Pleasant. The 526 extension should not be built in any form. It's astronomically expensive. It's the most expensive project in Charleston County's history, and the cost is still growing. The nearly $800 million should be spent on maintenance, improvements, and flooding fixes for existing roads and highways, not on construction of an outdated extension of 526. Voters were lied to when County Council deliberately left the extension off the 2016 list of promised projects the proposed half-cent sales tax was to pay for, only to commit a huge chunk of our tax dollars to the extension after the vote. Far from a solution, the extension will cause traffic congestion. It will inevitably lead to the same uncontrolled explosion of building and sprawl that has overtaken Mount Pleasant since 526 was built there. Building up Johns Island like Mount Pleasant will result in massive increases in traffic and will further overwhelm Johns Island and places like Calhoun Street and Lockwood, which are totally inadequate as a terminus for a major highway. The environmental impact statements completely fail to take account for the impacts of sprawl on wetlands, habitat, and the environment. The updated impact statement did not look at any new alternatives, like low country rapid transit. It failed to analyze how smaller scale road improvements could better relieve traffic at far lower costs with far lower environmental and community damage. The sprawl caused by 526 would also decimate African American communities on Johns Island and Wadmalaw, just like 526 in Mount Pleasant did to Snowden, 6 Mile, all the way up Highway 17 to the Phillips community and on into Awendaw. According to an August 22nd Post and Courier article, on Johns Island between 2010 and 2018, Black households declined by 31%, while white households increased by 64%. 526 extension would only ensure this and accelerate it. It is also unacceptable that a highway would run through James Island County Park. It would directly take over 32 acres of park and forever alter the entire park's character with noise and pollution. Any extension would cause further damage to wetlands and make the whole area more vulnerable to flooding and storm surge. Thank you.
David Wood. Elizabeth Singleton. No. Victoria Sullivan.
Victoria Sullivan. I'm a resident of Johns Island, and I also currently work down at MUSC, so I make the commute every day. All I will say is, I like my small community. Johns Island's perfect the way that it is. You know, maybe the traffic's a little congested, and certainly by improving current roadways, we could make the differences that we want. But I think if you ask pretty much any Johns Island resident, we really don't want giant infrastructure. We don't want a bunch of box stores built. We don't want a bunch of new houses that ruin our wetlands and cause worse flooding. And whatever statistic was made to say that the commute to MUSC from River Road was 114 minutes in the morning is totally wrong. I will tell you, I commute that every single day between the hours of 7 and 8:30, and I will tell you I have never once taken more than 35 minutes to make that drive. So whatever data was used there was completely inaccurate. But otherwise, what I'll say is also think of the damage that you're making to our community. You know, I know the big scale, the financial, environmental, everything else, but think about my neighbors, you know, think about my community. I like knowing who checks me out at the grocery store. I like knowing the man down the road that I buy eggs from. So please don't ruin that for me, and don't lie to people with your statistics.
Fred Martin.
Good afternoon. I'm Fred Martin, 661 Windermere Road. I'm here to object peacefully but strongly against this project. My personal property is on Riley Road, which I bought from Josiah Watson, who lived there, and his mother lived there before him. Josiah is Helen Field's father, and that's how I made the connection to find this property. That property will be directly affected by this construction. In general, there does not seem to be a concerted development plan published about this corridor, something that takes into consideration the local community, the heredity of the people that have lived here for hundreds and thousands of years, and how it will affect many future generations, 7, 10 generations from now. The primary focus seems to be on the low-level legal minimum requirements necessary that the federal and state government have set in place. We can do better, we deserve better, and we can set an example here by connecting the ecosystem of development and transportation in a closed loop. The assumption that growth has to be allowed and is beneficial needs to be readdressed within light of the future climate change that will make it unsafe to live in these low-lying island areas. Some of the problems that this project are going to include are the noise and environmental impacts throughout the corridor. Specifically, there doesn't seem to be anything addressing the noise impact to the bird life or wildlife. While the wildlife has been addressed, the specific effect of noise on, for example, bluebirds studied don't produce as many chicks in a noisy environment. Next, rainwater runoff and pollutant discharge from the road surface. The use of pervious material on the road surface to help control it is necessary. We need to develop a relationship between building development and transportation codified in the county code, similar to development regions in Florida where they address 30 intersections away from the new road. Also, there is a false narrative that this needs to be built for egress from the island. If community development and growth is desired on Johns Island, then we can consider the area west of Bayes Ferry. The paper mill company, Midwest Vaco, owns all of that. They can develop that. We can build there safely. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Dawn Cogden.
I have laryngitis. Dawn Congdon from 763 Riverland Drive. I just want to say that I'm for the no build, but if it's forced upon us, it's supposed to be an expressway, not a parkway. And with the choice of having a parkway, it hasn't even addressed the fact that it would block the river where the county park dock is. So the price that's being given is going to be escalated no matter what. That must be just a starting price. Secondly, the county council promised that they wouldn't use the half-cent sales tax for the Mark Clark Expressway project, and they've now changed that. Another option is the fact that when the public voted on this, there were several numbers. The options were in numbers, and the south end of the park has not been developed, but yet it's cheaper to take the northern end because it cuts out a little bit of length on the expressway. And with that, it's going to affect, again, tear apart African-American communities. They always seem to get the raw end of the deal. With it destroying the wetlands, the oak trees, and those are all the reasons why people come to Charleston for their weddings and for vacations. If we again throw up a highway, mow down the oak trees that everyone's mowing down, my neighborhood areas, I've been watching oak trees being taken down, and I never knew anything about it until I see them gone. I just asked the council to take in what everyone else has already said. No build, no build, no build. There's better options.
Tim Gatesman. It's handwritten, I'm sorry. My apologies.
I don't know if anyone else here, my name's Tim Gartman. I own a lot in Battery Hague. I'm not up here to propose that I'm talking for everybody in Battery Hague, but this extension is going to run right behind it. It's going to take away all the scenic beauty of the neighborhood, and all we'll be able to see is a bridge going across the wetland. So the Stono River, that view for the Stono River will be blocked by this extension. So I'm definitely against it. And I was told when I bought the lot that this was a fantasy, that they were only going to put this in if somebody came up with a lot of money. So evidently somebody came up with a lot of money. Thank you.
That completes our list of speakers. I'd like to thank everyone. Your name, sir? You were on the list twice. Oh, that's the difference. Okay, Mr. Barrow. It was was just listed as, there was no junior, no senior, so I wasn't sure.
My name's Elliot Barra, Chuck Dolly Boulevard, Mount Pleasant. I'm not affiliated with any group that's pertinent to this crowd tonight. Sometimes we can't predict the future, other times we can. It's easy to predict the future of Wadmalaw and Johns Island if 526 is extended. It's easy because all we have to do is look at Mount Pleasant and Daniel Island. The future over there is now. Those places were wonderful, pleasant, delightful, that is, until 1992. That's when 526 opened over there. That's when the swarms, the hordes, the defilers came blasting in. That was the starting gun for the scorching, raping of the land, the wreckage of many African American settlement communities, the cancerous lesions of scores of thousands of tract houses, of gargantuan East Berlin tenement-type apartment buildings, of parking garages, of hideous, towering office buildings, of the cancerous pollution of the water, the soil, and the air, the wholesale pillaging of everything that had been pleasant. The defilers, many from off, are salivating right now, today, and they're listening. They're drooling for 526 to be extended to come to Johns Island, because to them, it's just a launching pad to Wadmalaw. They salivate at the 41 square miles of Wadmalaw. They know they can smother the 2,600 residents who live there, and they know that they can buy them out. They can buy them off. They drool in the hopes of capturing Rockville, just like they did Murrells Inlet and just like they did Bluffton. The plans are set, the strategies are in place, the money is ready to flow. The future's certain, the end is near, unless this project is stopped. Mount Pleasant and Daniel Island provide irrefutable proof. To use a DOT term, preferred alternative, shut it down.
And that concludes our list of speakers. We'd like to remind you, what's your name, ma'am? I didn't see it on the list, but Chad, okay. Come on up.
My name is Rod Welch. I live on James Island. Is that better? Charleston area has some serious transportation problems, but they're on 526 and I-26. And this project will make both of those problems much worse. We've seen in the past year or two that small projects can help. We've all noticed the big change at River Road done by a small project. They're just, we also know, highway people in particular know, try to avoid it, is that projects like this just produce sprawl. They make traffic faster in the short run, but then it promotes growth and gets slower. This project, Alternative G by the DOT's own data, doesn't really save us that much time. So what's the benefit? Well, what there is a giant cost. And whatever they finally tell us the cost is today, multiply it by 2 or 3, because that's what it'll be in the long run. This project mortgages our future financially. We face another really serious problem, and that is the ocean taking us over. James Island, I think, is number 3 on the areas of this country after New Orleans and Miami to be flooded. So our problem is not building a parkway to these areas. The problem is keeping them above water. Thank you very much.
Well, since they've taken the list away from me, I guess that does conclude our list of speakers. I would like you to know, I would like to thank all of you who did step up here tonight, and I'd like you to know that comments will be accepted through October 15th. You can go to the website, once again, all one word, scdot.markclark.com. Thank you.